Next question I'm going to ask you, but I'm going to ask it just in case. Do you notice any bias ever through how you look, since you look like Jesus slash hobo? Just because bias.
I see quite a lot. I'm quite frequently asked for drugs, whether I'd like to buy or sell. I get asked a lot. No, I'm really not into that stuff. When I'm walking around late at night, then I definitely see people walk longer routes to avoid me. I probably look that scary. I mean, it strangely makes you feel powerful, you know? But it's also just not right. When I'm grocery shopping, like, I will be buying the most innocent thing. I buy lots of vegetables. But I will watch as every single mother just holds their child a little closer and is just like, don't be like him. Don't do it. Yes, in Madison, actually, I was living there over the summer. One person thought I was homeless and offered me a meal. I did not take that, but I mean, I would say I do get a fair amount. At my college, then a lot of people do kind of look weird like this. So there's not a whole lot there that I see with my professors. They just look at me as another student, and honestly, my work proves who I am to them. However, in the outside world, then it seems to be like, oh crap, he probably like dropped out of high school at age 14 or something, has been living in his mom's basement, you never know.
So I understand you had something you'd like to add on.
There's a lot of bias that some within social psychology, some of it will be a little out, and some of it crosses fields at this point. But one very well-researched field is stereotype threat. This was initially discovered by Steele and Aronson, Claude Steele, Elliot Aronson, at UCSC and Stanford, and it's the idea that being aware of stereotypes that negatively or positively affect you will actually affect your performance. In some rather fascinating studies, then, they did, as an example, like stereotype that women are bad at math or something. They took women and men and made them do a math exam. For one of them, they just said absolutely nothing. And the scores were fairly equal. In one of them, then they said that there were these stereotypes, but they were not true. And in that, then the women performed equally to the men. However, in one group where they said, we know that women might not be as good at math, and this is a problem-solving exam, they didn't explicitly say women are bad at math, but they noticed that the women's performance was far decreased. So the idea arose from this that being aware of stereotypes actually affects your performance in everyday life. One of the most interesting studies actually focused on Asian women, because there's the stereotype that Asians are good at math, along with the stereotype that women are bad at math. So in these two groups, then they had a control group, of course, where they just had them take the exam and saw the scores. But then they had a group where they told them the stereotype that Asians are good at math, and they significantly outperformed the other groups. While in the condition where they stated, we understand that women aren't as good at math, then the women had far decreased performance. Is this to say that women are necessarily bad at math? Not necessarily. It's that these negative stereotypes are actually affecting them in a way where they think they are, and when they take that to heart, then it affects them. So it works with any type of thing that can be stereotyped. So as an example, it works with people of color and the stereotypes that affect them. It works with even some stereotypes with white people, whether they're positive or negative. And as a whole, it really affects your self-image, which your self-bias is actually something that also comes up quite frequently. Talking about self-bias, one of the most significant things is self-serving bias, which can manifest itself in many ways. As an example, if I were to see my friend throw a ball and hit a toddler, I would probably assume my friend's a jerk. I probably would not be particularly thrilled with my friend, and I might reconsider my friendship. However, if I were to throw the ball and accidentally hit the toddler, I would probably think, well, I intended to throw it to the toddler. Well, I didn't plan to do this. And I would start going through this rationalizing and justification process just so I could say, no, well, I'm fine. So you can see this even in everyday life. You can probably think of many times where you've seen somebody do something and it frustrated you. However, when you do the same thing, you'll justify it like, oh, well, I'm in this situation. I notice it a lot while driving, personally. And in this sense, then you have a bias towards yourself almost always. And working in the opposite way of stereotype threat, the bias serves you. In stereotype threat, the bias often works against you. It sometimes can work for you, but in some